Hello, this is my tutorial on raiding in Empires and Puzzles. I don't claim to be an expert player. I've only been playing about 3 months now, but I've gathered, I think, a few insights on raiding that will be useful to probably more of the beginning level to intermediate level player. But hopefully they will be helpful to you. So the first question is, should you raid? And I say a lot, absolutely yes. A lot of people apparently don't like to raid. They think it's stressful or not that productive. But for me, it's absolutely worth it. When you win, you get a nice amount of food and iron. And more importantly, it helps you fill out your daily heroes hunt, which when you do that, depending on what tier you're at, I'm currently at gold, the rewards can be very high, not just in terms of resources, but also in terms of ascension items, which are very, very important as you progress in the game. So there are two ways to start a raid, either by hitting the raid button there on the lower left, or by opening your watchtower, which then shows you all the most recent raids that you've been a part of, either as an attacker or as a defender. If you've been successfully attacked, then you have the option to do the revenge, which is obviously something you want to at least check out. But something that will often very happen, as you can see is happening here, is that the opponent is online and the game does not allow you to fight PvP with someone live. It's only ever done with the computer controlling the AI of the defender. Not really sure why they've done that. I guess just the idea that if people tried to do it live, that if they were losing, they would just cut out. And I don't know that, but that's the way it's done. So if you want to do that, if you hit the yes there, that it'll randomly show you another opponent. But of course, it's just the same as if you were in the raid, where if you do that, it actually costs you resources to do that. To re-roll. So that's something to keep in mind. A lot of people don't realize that if you do that from the watchtower, it's still the same effect. I like to keep, by the way, collect resources from my watchtower, if I've got my phone handy every couple of hours, just so that I'm less of a target for the people to do that. So obviously, you can look at who you want to revenge there. And something interesting is that whoever you last looked at in the revenge becomes sticky in your list of opponents. So now if I come over here to raid and hit find opponent, that same person is going to come up. And so the next question is, should you re-roll to fight get more advantageous teams to fight against? I say yes, absolutely. When you're starting out in the game, it may seem like a waste of resources, but the point at where I'm at in the game is my base is pretty well built out. I've got my stronghold up to level 20. I'm getting my other key buildings now up to level 20. So for me, I've always pretty much got a surplus of food. So for me, it costs 2,000 per roll. And I know that seems like a lot, and it is. But I'm at the point where the food doesn't really matter all that much to me. So I say it's much better to re-roll to get an advantageous fight, because I don't mind losing, but when I'm being matched up, I want to at least feel like I have a reasonable shot against my opponent. And for me, I look at a couple of things to that. I'm not exactly sure how the computer ranks you in terms of your random opponents, but there's you're currently ranking, so the little number by the trophy, I'm at 1548. It seems to be that's the most important thing in terms of how you're ranked. Also, maybe the level of your character, your overall. I'm at level 27, so is my opponent. And then the most important thing, I think, is the power. That's just a ranking that the computer does, looking at your heroes, and obviously 4 and 5 star heroes are ranked higher, and the more they're leveled up, the more they're ascended, the more power they will be assigned. Power is not. It's more of a fast and loose thing. It's not what I would call something you would swear by. I have, won fights against people who were higher power. I have lost fights against people who were much lower power. But it's dependent on a lot more than that. So I look at the power in terms of re-rolling. The other thing I look for is a squishy hero. I am looking for someone in their lineup, we'll go ahead and do a couple of re-rolls here, who has low health and or defense that I feel like I can take down pretty quickly. So you can see here, my defensive team, or my attacking team that I've currently got listed there, is at 3046 power. These people are almost 400 power above me. They've got only 4-star heroes, but 4 of the 5 of them are maxed out, highest ascension, and 1 is just shy of that. That is a tough team. I would not want to take up this team. As a general rule, look at the very lower right symbol here, this trophy rating. That gives you an idea of if you won that fight, you would gain 50 reputation and you would lose 11 if you lost. That's probably the best indicator of your chances in this fight. If it's roughly even, you've probably got about a 50-50 shot. If it's really imbalanced, that tells you which way it would go. So for me, I re-roll until I feel like I've got a reasonable shot at downing them. That particular guy would not fall into that category. I think he would absolutely wipe the floor with me. So let's talk now about the basic roles of the in raiding. And for this, I'm going to, rather than actually start a live raid, because the game penalizes you if you take too long. So I'm actually just going to look at a screen capture I did of a raid that I started. So this is what it looks like when the raid starts. So important to note here, the positioning of your attackers on the bottom matters not at all, because the defender just randomly attacks whoever's down there. There's no, they can attack anyone they want. Up at the top, though, the positioning ranks where they're placed is very important, because as you can see here, with the different colored tiles, there's 35 total, 7 across and 5 down. So as you're looking at the 3 middle rows all will attack that tank, as it's known, in the middle, just because of where they're positioned. Only the second from the left and the second from the right will hit the heroes to the either side of the tank. And then only the rows on the far left and far right will hit the heroes in those positions. So in other words, when you're starting out with doing your tile connections, it's virtually impossible to hit anything other than the tank, or at least partially hit the tank. So there are a lot of school of thoughts of who do you put in that tank position. I know a lot of people who believe you should actually put a weak, squishy character in the middle, and that you want to have your tougher people along the side, the idea being that they will, therefore, since they can't be hit, they will last longer, and it'll be more advantageous to their team. A lot of people apparently follow that credo, apparently including this person here, because they put what I think is their weakest hero in the middle, a 3-star guy who I know to be pretty squishy. I can't actually click on his stats here since this is just a screenshot, but I know that guy. You will learn the heroes as you play the game, so I can just look at these guys and know what their powers are and how squishy they are. That guy in the middle is pretty squishy. He's probably got about 700, 750 health, so he's not very tough at all. That is the tank position. Some people say you put a squishy. I say you put someone as tough as possible in the middle so that they will last as long as possible. But we'll get more into that in just a second. The other roles to play so that only the defensive team has a tank. The other roles that you can have on either the attacker or the defender is the healer, which obviously they can heal you. The direct damage or single damage heroes, that they attack just one other hero. The area of effect damage, which is they can either hit everybody or they hit one main target with some other damage to the people off to the sides. Or there's the buffer. Those, and there actually aren't that many of them, heroes that don't do any healing or damage. They just buff or debuff your team or the other team. And I'm not too big on pure buffers, debuffers, just because I don't think it plays a role more in fighting in the game, doing your progression, trying to take down the Dark Lord and all that, and not so much in raiding. But the special powers do play a role, and we'll switch back to the game now. In terms of selecting your team and selecting your matchups, this is the most critical aspect of raiding, I think. I think it's even more important than what you actually do in the raid with the tile connections and all that, is having the right team. So for your defenders, obviously, since you have to think in terms of the computer is going to be controlling your heroes. So you want to have, for me, for the longest time, I kept a healer in my defensive team. I finally stopped doing that, just because looking at my hero roster, its glaring weakness is healing. I've only got these 2 3-star healers. Hawkmoon, you can see she's very squishy. She only has 637 health. What I found is if I take her into raids, she just gets taken out very quickly before she can get a heal off. I've more recently gotten Belith. She's a bit tougher, has more health. And so I have used her and do still use her in some raids. She also has the special power, which I'll talk about next, is for me in raiding it's not so much about the tiles and the tile connections. It's about getting your special powers of your heroes off before they die and getting them off before your opponent gets their special powers off. For the longest time when I was raiding, I was thinking of it in terms of like checkers. Like I have all these pieces. I'm trying to take out as many pieces of my opponent while I want to hang on to my pieces. And you can't think that way. It's much more like chess. You have to go in with the assumption that every single one of your heroes is going to die. My goal is that I at least want them to get their special power off at least once before they die. Because it's all about getting those powers off. I've found that the most important thing in every raid is, not always, but most of the time, whichever team gets a special power off first, particularly if it's a damage attack, is almost always the one that's going to win. Not always, but probably 75, 80% of the time. So when you're looking at your opponent, feel free to edit your teams to look at their special powers and look at your special powers in order to counter them as best as possible. So there's my defensive team, and I have no healer in it. I have Cyprian in the middle as my tank. She's got a lot of health. She's got good defense. Special power is counterattack, which is very, very useful for a tank in raiding, because any attack that is done against him or adjacent heroes, 100% damage goes back. So if, for instance, someone has an area of effect attacker is dumb enough to use that power when counterattack is in place, it will almost certainly kill that hero instantly. So that's a very good tank. I've also got my lone 5-star hero in that spot, Leonidas. He's really good. If I could get him ascended up to the next level, so he's up over 1,000 health, I would absolutely make him my tank, because his special power is, amongst others, is he gets back 75% of the damage he does as healing. So he would make an excellent tank. Even though he doesn't have a ton of health compared to other 5-star heroes, he would make a great tank if I could just get him ascended. I also have Hu Tao. He has the slow mana speed, which in general, as a general rule, heroes that do that attack everyone tend to have slow mana speed versus those that have do single tend to have fast mana speed. And that's very important in raiding because, like I say, your goal is to try and get your special powers off as quickly as possible. So you can see here on my defensive team, I only have one guy. It's not as important to have the fast power, the fast mana speed, because you are going to have more opportunities to get your power off because you're being hit with tiles and that's upping your mana of your heroes. So I've got 2 guys actually with slow, Colin, and then Hu Tao, and then 2 with average, and just 1 with fast. As I said, that's fine for a defensive team. But for an attacking team, you really want to have faster. So this is the one I generally use for my attacking team in raids. I've got 3 fast mana speed characters. Sonya, who does single damage. Caedmon, single damage. And then Chow, also single damage. The other thing that you really want to pay attention to when you're setting up your attacking team is the powers that they have beyond the damage that they do. So there's two that I think in particular that are really, really important. Excuse me. So my best healer, Belith, she has one of them, which is dispels buffs from all enemies. That is incredibly useful in raiding. This is what's known as debuffing. If you're removing buffs from an enemy, that's known as debuffing. But that is just so incredibly useful because, for instance, if someone has that counterattack spell up, you really can't use your special attacks on them because it'll be so fatal to your attacker. So be able to have her get off a heal and also debuff favorable spells on all of the enemies, that is just so incredibly useful. I have a few others. Cademan also has the ability to dispels buffs from all enemies, and also Sonya dispels buffs from all enemies. So on my attacking team there, you saw I had I try to always have at least two that can do debuffs. The other special power that I think is very, very useful in raiding is mana reduction. As you can see there's Leonidas, in addition to healing himself with damage dealt, he also reduces the mana of the target by 40%. That is it's such a great power to have in raiding, because as you are seeing your enemy's heroes have their mana raised, either by time or by hitting them with tiles, you can see someone's about to get a power off. If I have someone who can hit them and knock their mana back down, that can be just an advantageous move in the game. I have one other hero, Chow, who can also do that. I've actually had him for a long time. I hadn't even really leveled him up or used him very much until I realized that he also had that power. So I try now to also always bring Chow into the attacking raids. So that's the next question. Is you can see there from my team there that I do not have a purple player, and I have two yellow. For the longest time, I sort of assumed that you had to do the same thing that you generally want to do in the game, which is having one hero of every color, just so that otherwise, when those tiles, so for instance, when I hit someone with tiles that are purple using this team, they do no damage or one damage apiece. But really, it's all about the special abilities, not the tiles. It's pretty rare. Or it's usually not consequential in raids, the damage that you're doing with tiles. It's all about getting your special powers off. So it's less important to have one hero, I think, from every power than it is to have that representation of every color. Going back to my sample thing, and we'll start up a couple of sample raids here. But so looking at the board again, here is my basic strategy in terms of using the tiles. Is I want to take out one hero as quickly as possible so that I can start sending up rows of combinations into that gap. And people are like, why would you do that? You're not doing any damage. Well, that's what it's all about. Every time you hit an enemy hero with tiles, you're upping their mana. So you're making it sooner before they get their special power off. When you've got a gap where you can just send a row of tiles up to the gap so you're not hitting anybody, that is a tremendous advantage, because even though you're not doing damage to them, you are charging your hero's mana without charging your opponent's mana. And that is just so critical, because what I have found in the game as a general rule is, that, like I said, the people who get their powers off first generally is the team that wins. Certainly, usually, not always, but the team that kills a hero first usually is going to be the team that wins. In my experience, most raids, the outcome is generally determined in the first 5 or 6 moves. Sometimes you will get really, really lucky with the tiles and get a great cascade that powers up your heroes or even kills some enemies. But for the most part, it's usually the first few moves. So that's kind of my basic philosophy of setting up the raid, is look for opponents who have one squishy hero that you think you can take out pretty quickly. And then set up your heroes to have special powers to best be able to counteract the powers of your enemy. In terms of taking a healer into the raid, I basically make that determination based on my opponent. You will. I'm seeing things more common now where you will find opponents who are bringing in 2, 3, or even 4 healers into a raid. I've even seen ones that had, I think had, just a couple of defensive players and 3 healers. And that is a great strategy. That actually works really well. In that case, any raid becomes a war of attrition. So in that case, you do want to have a healer, even though they're not going to be hitting you very hard, certainly not with special attacks, since all they do is hit themselves. They are going to be knocking you down with those regular attacks, and so you want to have a healer in order to be able to have a shot of that war of attrition. But so we'll hopefully do at least 1 or 2 sample raids here real quick. So in terms of looking at this opponent, you've got Cyprian in the middle, who's tough. Little John, who I just despise fighting Little John. I hate him. But you can see he's got a weak 3-star hero on the left, and almost getting up to Ascended hero on the right. That's a tough team. Even though our numbers, the team power, are similar, I don't think I have a shot. And you can see there, computer assesses that as slightly in the lower right. The computer assesses that as being slightly advantage to the defender. I think it's very much to the defender. As a general rule, I'm looking for a team power that's either equal to mine or lower. I don't think I have a shot. Gormak is a great tank. Terrific healer here, Sabina. I've been hoping to get her myself. I don't think I have a shot with that team. Hopefully you will not, for the purposes of this video, see me having to re-roll 20 times. I have done it. I've sat here and, blown 40 or 50,000 food at a time. All right, here's one. Got Little John in the middle. He has a slow mana speed, almost 1,000 health. So for him, because he attacks everybody, can I kill him before I can get he gets his power off? I don't think so. So this player has purposely put 2 weak 3-star heroes off to the right, and I think they've done that intentionally. Is to try and lure you in to see you've got these 2 really good healer here, and you've got 2 super tough guys here in the middle and off to the left, and then weak guys on the right. I could try and fight this guy and see if I could get lucky with my tile combinations that I can hit the right side and hopefully power up my heroes before these guys get theirs off. I don't know. Looking at the ranking here, the computer actually thinks that this is an advantage to the that player, even though his team power is lower than mine. Well, for the purposes of this video, I don't think I have a good shot with this guy. I think at best maybe a 25-30% chance of winning here. But just for the purposes of this tutorial, let's go ahead and give a shot. I think this is the sort of thing that will be very dependent on the board. If I get a good board, I've got a chance. If I get a terrible board, I don't think I've got a chance. So looking at this is not a bad board in terms of the left side and right side. So I'm looking at my left side, my right side. So I've got a decent amount of yellows. I've got some purples. And of course, unfortunately, I don't have a purple hero, so those will do virtually no damage. I've got reds. But my hero, Cullen, is a slow mana speed, so chances that he's going to get his power off are pretty nil. So what to do here? It's tough. My main thing is I do not want to get Little John. And by the way, you can press and hold on the heroes, even in combat, to see what their stats and everything are, including how much health they have remaining. So, I don't know. I don't think I've got a great shot here. Probably my best move here is I've got my 2 yellow heroes, is to try and power them up. So let me try and do that. We'll start off here on the right side, send these reds up, do a little damage on Bane there. Purple does a lot of damage on Bane, except that I don't have a purple hero. Let's take a look here. We'll do this... maybe off to the left here, try and get that's going to hit Gormak and power up his mana. And see, unfortunately, that did a cascade, which I actually don't want a cascade, because now look at Gormak. Now he's almost ready to pop his power. That's not good. I think my best shot here is to try and get Chow up. Yeah, it's not looking good here. we'll do this to get rid of these, and hopefully we can get a. All right, this has worked out well because now I can power up. That should get Chow up. And unfortunately, that got Bane up. You can see now my Kademon is almost dead. So even though I've got these guys here on the right, I think my best move at this point with Chow is to try and hit Gormek and knock down his mana. Yeah, things aren't looking so good on this fight, guys. Let's try. And now we got Little John is almost about to get his power off. Yeah, things aren't looking good here at all. Yeah. I didn't bring a healer. Let me try this left. I've got Cayman almost up with this connection. Unfortunately, that will power up Gormek a little bit. I hate... See, in this case, I actually don't want those cascades. And there's Little John. God, I hate Little John with the hate of 1,000 suns. This is pretty much a wipe here. I don't see any chance of this happening. So I'm just going to try and get some heroes down here just so I can add to my hero hunt tally for today. Here goes Leonidas. He will get some health back. Hopefully also kill that hero or come very close. And there he goes. So, and we've got, look at this. We've got Gormek is about to get his power off. The healer is about to get her heal off. So my goal here is to try and save this as much as possible. Is just to see if I can power up Colin. Hopefully he'll survive. Oh, unfortunately he got his mana knocked back down, so not looking so good there. So obviously this is not going to work out. And there goes Bane, and that's a pretty bad defeat. I only killed one hero. I really was not in it even from the start. Like I said, first few 5-6 moves I think usually determine the fate. We'll go ahead and do one more. Hopefully we'll show you something a little bit better. And yeah, like I say, I'm going to sit here and re-roll just because of where I'm at in my ranking or whatever it is. I'm generally polling people with team powers between 3,200 and 3,500, which I just don't think I have any kind of a shot against them. So let's see. Look at this. 35 guys, 500 power. All right, so here's someone who's lower. Let's take a look at him. So he's got Cademan up to 2nd Ascension. So he's up to 908 health. He's got Gormek maxed out. Why he doesn't have Gormek in the middle of his tank, I don't know. That's where I put him. He's got the weak healer. I say weak, it's the same one I have. Valen here, who's pretty squishy. And then this guy, who's just a buffer. He doesn't do any attacks. Wukong, who's pretty tough. I don't know. Computer's saying, according to this, that I have a slight advantage there. I don't know if I think that's the case. See, I want to show you. I'm hoping to get at least one win to show you guys the magnificence of my rating strategy. Wouldn't that be great if I lost everything? I don't know about that one. For me, that's a 50-50 at best. I probably try and work the left side of the board as much as I could. In this case, since they have a healer, I might try and take a healer with me. I don't know. Let's just keep going. I don't think I have a great advantage with that one. 32. You see, I just get all these ones in this way. Now you see the way people structure their teams. People will often include 3-star heroes on their teams just to lower its power, to give them an advantageous ranking. Look at this guy here. 3rd Ascension, 5-star, fairly weak healer. Lixu, or however you pronounce it, is a terrific character for PvP, for raiding, because she does damage to everyone and lowers the mana of everyone. I can't tell you how many times I've been fighting a team and had 2 or 3 heroes with their special attack up or about to be up, and then Lixu comes along, gets hers off, and boom, suddenly I got nothing. So, yeah, with maxed out Tibertus, over 1,000 health, I don't see a squishy way in there. All right, here's a weaker one. This is interesting. See, this is someone that's definitely using the philosophy of put a squishy in the middle and tougher ones off to the side. So they got a healer, they got Hu Tao, who's pretty tough. This guy, who's a real tough 5-star or 4-star guy. The computer says I have the advantage here. I don't know about that. I'd say this is about 50-50. The question is here, do I want to bring a healer in, or do I want to try and go all out? Colin isn't so great for raiding because he's got that slow mana speed. If he can get his special off, though, he's really, really devastating because it does a huge amount of damage to everybody and then damage over time. Well, let's give this a swirl, and hopefully we can win at least one here for the purposes of this tutorial. All right, and also, when you are starting out, you do want to pay attention to the elements in terms of what hits what. So obviously, as a blue, green hits him. I've got some green here. So my goal with this fight is I want to get the tank in the middle, Kirill. I want to get him down, and I've got a pretty good shot here. Yeah, he's almost dead. He's almost got his power up. So the red, oh, that was a good combination. That will get him. Unfortunately, I still don't have anybody with their powers up. But now I've got a gap. And look, I've got a row there to send that up. And with any luck, that gets Caedmon's special attack up. Oh boy, oh boy. So the question is, who do I try and kill? All his guys are almost full power. Jack O'Hare, he's got a fast mana speed. And so looking at the board here, I've got some blues here that I can use against Jack O'Hare to follow up. The healer is pretty squishy, but she's not close yet to getting her heal off. So we're going to go ahead and use Caedmon on him. He gets pretty close. Ugh, great. I'll see that didn't work well at all. Jack O'Hare got his attack off. All right. Do I have anything for the gap? No, not much for the gap. I do have some purple connections, unfortunately, because I chose to bring in with no purple. That's not going to do much. But because he just got his power off and he's got none, hopefully with luck there, so we get with the red, which is best against him. I still don't have. I'm trying to get either of my yellow guys up, and unfortunately, I'm just not getting good combinations here. We'll go ahead and do this. Hopefully, Hu Tao will not get up. Good. All right, so we're going to probably use... This is a tough one here. So we've got the healer is almost up. Gormek is almost up. He hits like a tank. He does area of effect. So probably either... if I don't get this one by situation, perhaps split up my attack with these guys, because since they'll both reduce mana, I could do one on the healer and one on Hu Tao. Let's start off with Leonidas on Hu Tao. See how much. If I can get him close where I think I can kill him, I might go that way, or I might use it on the healer. Because if the healer gets the heal off, then this quickly becomes a war of attrition. Since I did not bring a healer in, I will probably lose. Fortunately, one thing that is up is we do have the yellow thing here, and we can send that up into the gap. A little bit of a hit on Hu Tao, but boom, that gets Colin powered up. In general, if I get Colin powered up, usually I'm going to win the raid, because he's just so devastating. He does that massive attack, and now he also does the damage over time. So at this point now, I'm just going to concentrate on, now I've got a huge gap. I just want to charge up my heroes. We'll get Sonya up, and she should be able to, look at this. Now the healer has her up, but Sonya hits pretty darn hard, should be able to get the healer before she gets that heal off. And boom, she goes. All right, now Gormek is almost powered up, but frankly, at this point, I don't care. I'm just concentrating on getting, he'll probably get his power up now. And there he is, he's ready to go. And he does a lot of damage, ton of damage to the target and minor damage to nearby targets. Gormek is a terrific PvP guy. You can see I've got all this purple on the board now because I don't have a purple player. And I don't have an obvious connection here for... I'm going to just try and move some purple out of the way. So yeah, there we go. So there's, luckily I'm surprised no one died there. But now I've got a couple of combinations for the gap. There's one, and this may not get Gormek completely, but it will heal up Leonidas. God, I love Leonidas. And that's pretty much all she wrote, gang. So I'm winning this one pretty handily. I took a lot of damage, but ended up not losing any heroes. And as you can see there, I got a little bit of reputation and a nice, so you can see how, I don't know how many times I re-rolled actually for the purposes of this raid. At best, it's probably break even on the food there for me, probably a net loss. But at this point, I only care about the iron and having fun. Well, anyway, gang, that is, and as you can see here, with that, I did manage to get enough heroes for my daily heroes quest, which I'm at the gold tier. That can be pretty significant. So you can see there, I get 37,000 food, so all my net losses from re-rolling, I think I've pretty much made them up now. Ton of iron, some other stuff, no ascension items, unfortunately, but some other good stuff. So that is my 101 on raiding in Empires and Puzzle. Hopefully it'll be useful to you in figuring out your own strategy for the game, and to maximize your success, and just to have a lot of fun, because it's a game, and if you're not having fun, why play it? Thanks very much. If you have any comments, criticisms, or quips, feel free to put them below. Thanks very much for watching.